There's no secret the housing market has changed. There are less buyers than there were this time last year, even though rates are dropping and some sellers are having a difficult time selling their homes. This has led many people to ask the question, are we going to experience another housing market crash similar to the one that we saw in 2008? In this video, we're going to take a look at a handful of maps to help you make the best decision with your home purchase or sale. I know there's a ton of videos right now showing that there's a 50% housing market crash coming, a 90% housing market crash coming. There's a lot of scary headlines out there. So we're going to take a look at what's going on in the housing market, looking at some maps that show clearly what's happening to help you make the best decision for your home purchase or sale. Before we get into it, my name's Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, all of my contact information is in the description. Reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help you. So let's get into the first graph here. This graph that we're looking at now is out of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and it maps the home price changes throughout the entire country. So what we're looking at now are the year-over-year home price changes in 2005, right? This is the lead up to the great financial crisis. This is the lead up to the massive crash that took place across the entire country. So in average in 2005, homes increased by about 16% year over year. Now, when we scroll through this, we can see what happened leading up to the great financial crisis. You see it went from 16%. The round marks that you're now seeing are year-over-year declines in median sales price. This is in 2006, before the great financial crisis started, which was 2007, 2008. It goes here, and then all of a sudden now we're into the negatives. On average across the country, home prices were down about 5% by June of 2007. And then we roll throughout 2008. Look at these dark brown spots. The darker the brown spot, the larger the year-over-year decrease in median sales price was in that part of the country. So as we scroll through, we see there was a massive decrease in median sales price from 2008 to 2012, which is something that basically everybody knows. In 2010, things started to rebound a little bit, but then it still started to decrease. And remember, these are year-over-year changes. So just because it's only going down by 1.5% in 2011, that is on top of the 7% decrease in 2009 and the 13% decrease in 2008. So it went down 13% across the country, then it went down 10% across the country. Now in 2011, it's only down 1.5%, but it's still down significantly from the peak. So that's what happened in the great financial crisis. Now, when we take a look at what happened in the United States in 2019 leading up to where we are today, we see it's blue. And then, of course, COVID happened. Everybody knows what happened during COVID. Home prices shot up. We see these dark blue spots. Again, the darker the blue area, the larger the year-over-year increase was in that part of the country. Then we see coming into 2023, we're still up 4.9% across the country. But we have some counties here that are down year-over-year. There are some counties that the median sales price has started to decrease. And we move forward to where we are today, we're still up 4.9%. So if you remember back in 2008, when we take a look at what happened in the lead up, things were up, and then they started going down and they never came back. They just kept decreasing. Now what we have is we saw things go up throughout the entire country, and then they started to come down, and then they pretty much flattened out and started to tick back up again. So it's a much different environment today than we saw in 2008. We're not seeing a massive peak followed by a massive crash like we saw in 2008. We're seeing a massive peak, a massive run up in prices, followed by a flattening in prices, generally speaking, across the country. Now, home prices are still up by about 5% year over year across the country. Now, this data is from May, so things are going to change a little bit. There's a 3.2% increase in the median sales price according to Redfin across the country, but overall, the median sales price is still up. We're not seeing a massive crash like we saw in 2008. We're seeing more of a flattening in prices. Now, one thing that you have to be aware of is the median sales price changes based on the region that you're in. Across the entire country, no two markets are the same. If we take a look at what's going on right now, we see here in New Hampshire, Belknap, New Hampshire is up 17.1% year over year, compared to Navajo, Arizona is down 0.3% year over year. So things are changing. Things are very different in different parts of the country, and Florida especially, although we're not seeing it in this graph, in the next map that we're going to look at, Florida is behaving very differently than many parts of the country. So we're going over to this article here. The housing market is shifting. Here is where it's happening. They show some great maps that outline exactly what's going on in the housing market. This first map here takes a look at the median days on market by area. Now, the larger the circle, the more homes are on the market in that area. We see here, down in Florida, we have a few large bubbles here where there are between 15,000 and 40,000 homes on the market. And we have some properties that are sitting on the market for 80 days. Now, this is the median days on market. So that means half of the homes in this metro are taking longer than 80 days to sell. Half of the homes in this metro are taking fewer than 80 days to sell. Now we see here, as we move up to the northeast, that number is in the South Burlington area where I'm at, that number is closer to 27. So half of the homes in the market are selling in less than 27 days. Half of the homes in the market are selling for more than 27 days. Now this is drastically over the 16-day period in 2022, but it's still well under the 48-day median days on market metric that we saw in 2019. So things are still relatively competitive in the Northeast, but down in Florida, parts of Texas here, down in Arizona, things are changing. It's a much different market. Now, this next graph I think is really, really telling. Active housing inventory for sale compared to pre-pandemic levels. So this is the change in inventory on the market in these metros compared to what they were in 2019. When we take a look at the Northeast as a whole, most metros are down. We have Chicago, which I know is the Midwest, not the Northeast, but there's 65% less inventory in Chicago than there was in 2019. Now, when we take a look at some other areas in the Northeast, New York and Newark, there's 51% less inventory. Hartford, Connecticut has 78% less inventory than they had in 2019. Now, having less inventory on the market is a story that we have been talking about for years now, right? Inventory has been low throughout most of the country, but what's starting to change is when we take a look at Florida, inventory is actually up. There's more homes on the market now than there were before the pandemic, which is much different than most of the country. And it's drastically different compared to the Northeast, and it's drastically different than what we've been talking about throughout the pandemic. So when we take a look at Florida, there's areas in Florida that have over 50% more homes on the market today compared to 2019. And now, why is this a big red flag for the Florida real estate market? Well, there's less buyers than there were in 2019. There's less home buyers in the market right now because prices are so high. Rates are still relatively high, even though they've come down in recent weeks. They're still high, much higher than they were during the pandemic. And so when you have more inventory and less buyers, that's a recipe for home prices starting to decrease. And now we're not seeing that in the Northeast, but we are seeing that down in Florida and in parts of Texas, which is where a lot of the fear articles, the people calling for a housing market crash, a lot of those people are talking about Florida and they're talking about Texas. Now, when we scroll down to this next map here, what we're looking at is the one-year change in home prices between June of 2023 and June of 2024. We see we haven't seen a drastic decrease in home prices throughout many parts of the country, including Texas, including Florida. Home prices are not dropping fast in those areas yet. Now, there are some markets where home prices are coming down, but overall, home prices are still ticking up. Now, we're not seeing drastic home price declines in markets in Florida or in Texas, and throughout the Northeast, we're still seeing increases in median sales price that exceed the average increase in median sales price throughout the country, which sits at around 3%. But down in Florida, we are seeing some small declines. The one-year price range in Cape Coral, Florida is down 3.8% year over year. We have Austin, Texas is down 4.7% year over year. Now the 5-year graph, if you bought your home 5 years ago, you're still up 46%, but you're down 4.7% year over year. So we're not seeing these price changes yet, but these areas of Austin, these areas in Texas, these areas in Florida are at much greater risk of seeing a drastic price decline compared to the Northeast. And that's because of the inventory on the market. So even though there's less buyers out there, the Northeast is well insulated because there's also much less inventory than there was pre-pandemic. Compared to Florida, where we have less buyers, we have more inventory than pre-pandemic, and we're not seeing prices come down yet, but we could start to see that as we move into the future. So I hope you found this video useful. The point of this video was to show you what's going on in the housing market so you can make the best decision for your home purchase and sale. At the end of the day, there's a lot of people giving a lot of different opinions about what's going on in the housing market. So what I wanted to do is show you the differences between what happened in 2008 and what happened today, and then dive deeper into what's going on in the housing market throughout most of the country to help you make the best decision for your home purchase or sale wherever you are in the country. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I'm saying here? Do you disagree? What do you think of these maps? I learned so much from you folks. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.